I was 3 months sober, watching my son Tyler on the jungle gym when I heard it. That's the junkie, Mom. The words cut through the autumn air like a knife. I turned slowly. Danielle stood there, the PTA queen, her smile sharp as broken glass. Her son was in Tyler's 3rd grade class. She leaned close, her perfume expensive and suffocating. Stay away from the moms. We don't want relapse energy near our kids. I swallowed the shame burning in my throat. My hands trembled as I gripped my coffee cup. Then I noticed her phone pointed at me, recording. My face felt hot. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but my sponsor's voice echoed in my head. Don't react. Document. I pulled out my own phone and took a photo of her recording me. She smirked and walked away, her designer heels clicking on the playground asphalt. Tyler came running over, breathless and happy. Mom, did you see me on the monkey bars? I forced a smile, ruffling his dark hair. I saw everything, buddy. My phone buzzed. An email notification appeared. Subject line, safety concern, parent complaint. My stomach dropped. This was just beginning. The school principal's office smelled like old books and disappointment. Mrs. Fletcher sat across from me, her expression professionally neutral. Danielle had submitted a formal complaint. She called it evidence of parental instability. My hands were shaking, so I clasped them in my lap. Mrs. Fletcher played a video on her laptop. It showed me in my car crying, but there was no context. No sound. It didn't show that I'd just left my NA meeting, overwhelmed with gratitude for 90 days clean. It looked like I was having a breakdown in a school parking lot. Mrs. Brennan, we take these concerns seriously, Mrs. Fletcher said carefully. If these issues continue, we may need to notify Child Protective Services. The words hit me like a punch. I had $6,347 in savings from working double shifts at the hospital. Every penny was for Tyler's future. Now it might go to lawyers instead. I took a deep breath, remembering everything recovery had taught me. I understand your concern, I said quietly. That video was taken without my consent. I was processing emotions after a support meeting. I've been sober for 3 months. I have documentation. Mrs. Fletcher's expression softened slightly, but I could see the doubt lingering in her eyes. That night, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. A photo appeared. Tyler, laughing at the playground. The caption read, "He deserves better than a pill-popping mother." My blood ran cold. The emoji made it worse. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was a threat with a smile. I drove straight to my sponsor's house, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Patricia opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. I showed her everything. The recording, the school meeting, the photo of Tyler, the mocking text message. Patricia had 20 years of sobriety. She'd seen every manipulation tactic addicts and their enemies could throw. Do not react, she said firmly. Build your file. Screenshot everything. Timestamp it. Write down every interaction. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. Her voice was steel wrapped in kindness. I saved the text. Screenshot. Timestamp. Noted the date, time, and my emotional state. Patricia made tea while I created a folder on my phone labeled Evidence. I had 10 screenshots by midnight, each one cataloged with military precision. Then my ex-husband called. Mark's voice was honey-sweet, but I heard the blade underneath. Danielle says you're using again. She's very concerned about Tyler. I'm filing for emergency custody. My heart stopped. Do what you need to do, I said quietly. He laughed, sharp and cruel. Oh, I will. My lawyer says this will be easy. The business card appeared on my windshield the next morning. Ulbrook and Associates, family law attorney, free consultation. I stared at it, wondering if this was coincidence or if Danielle's reach extended this far. My savings account balance, $6,347. A custody lawyer would cost at least $5,000 just to start. I called anyway. 3 days later, I sat across from Theodore Holbrook himself. He slid papers across his mahogany desk. Emergency custody motion filed by Mark. The allegations were brutal. Relapse, neglect, unsafe people in my home. Drug paraphernalia found by Tyler. Every single word was a lie designed to destroy me. This is serious, Theodore said, his gray eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. The witness list includes several parents from your son's school. I scanned the names. Danielle was listed first, star witness. My stomach turned to ice. How long do I have? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. 2 weeks until the hearing. My retainer is $5,000. I wrote the check, watching my safety net disappear. Theodore's expression softened. We'll fight this. But you need to understand, custody cases against recovering addicts are uphill battles. I walked out of his office with my face calm and my soul burning with purpose. On the courthouse steps, I nearly collided with someone. Danielle. She wore white like she was attending a baptism. She smiled that poisonous smile. Don't worry, she said sweetly. I'll make sure the judge sees you for what you really are. This is what I do, helping protect children from unstable mothers. I said nothing. I just walked past her, documenting the encounter in my phone the moment I reached my car. At my NA meeting that night, I broke down. I want to destroy her, I confessed to the circle. I want her to hurt the way she's hurting me. The room was silent. Then an older woman named Constance, quiet and precise, spoke up. Revenge won't save you. Winning will. 15 faces turned to look at her. After the meeting, Constance pulled me aside. She'd been a paralegal for 20 years before her own addiction nearly killed her. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen, she said, her voice carrying the weight of experience. Courts don't care about your feelings. They care about facts, dates, and documentation. She taught me how to organize evidence. Tabs, dates, proof, categories. Think like a lawyer, not like a victim, she said. I spent that night at my kitchen table creating my evidence binder. I labeled sections: sobriety documentation, school involvement, financial stability, harassment evidence, timeline of events. Each page was dated and sourced. My hands steadied as I worked. This was something I could control. I opened my desk drawer looking for more dividers and found something I'd forgotten existed. My father's old law school acceptance letter, yellowed with age. The memory hit me like a wave. He'd wanted me to be a lawyer. I'd chosen pills instead, spiraling into addiction that cost me everything. But I'd also chosen something else, something I'd never told anyone about. Not even Mark. I'd finished my bachelor's degree while in treatment. Quietly, ashamed to hope for any future beyond survival. The counselors had encouraged education as part of recovery. I'd taken online classes between group therapy and detox, political science, criminal justice, constitutional law. Graduated 18 months ago with honors, right before Mark and I separated. I pulled out my transcript from the back of the drawer. My hands stopped shaking. 96 credit hours. GPA 3.7. Graduated with honors. Then I found the other letter, the one I'd received 4 months ago, before any of this nightmare started. Accepted judicial clerkship training program. I'd applied on a whim, thinking it was impossible. The program was designed for career changers interested in becoming magistrates or family court judges. 2 years of night classes and supervised clerkship. I'd started my first semester 6 weeks ago, attending classes twice a week after Tyler went to bed. I whispered to the empty room, maybe I'm not who they think I am. The shame I'd carried for so long shifted slightly, making room for something else. Not just hope, determination. My phone buzzed. Email from Mark's attorney. Drug test required within 24 hours. Failure to comply will be used as evidence of relapse and will support our emergency custody motion. I exhaled slowly. They were trying to panic me, but I had nothing to hide. Not anymore. I scheduled the test for first thing tomorrow morning. The testing facility was sterile and cold. Hair test, urine test, blood work. The technician was professional but distant, probably used to desperate addicts trying to cheat the system. Results in 48 hours, she said. Cost, $340. I paid with my credit card, watching my available credit shrink. While I waited in the lobby, I checked my phone. Danielle had posted on Facebook. Some moms play victim. Some moms protect children. Grateful to be able to stand up for the vulnerable ones who can't speak for themselves. The post had 37 likes already and climbing. Comments flooded in, each one a carefully veiled attack. So brave, Danielle. We support you. Keep fighting for what's right. Not all heroes wear capes. I was a headline in my own neighborhood, and nobody knew my side. Nobody cared to ask. Tyler came home from school that afternoon and went straight to his room without his usual chatter about recess and math problems. I found him on his bed, staring at the ceiling, his backpack still on. Mom, he said quietly, not looking at me, why don't the other moms like you? My heart shattered into pieces. I knelt beside him, eye level, fighting back tears. I used to be sick. I took medicine that hurt me instead of helping me, but I'm getting better now. Some people don't understand that getting better is possible, and I'm going to protect us. Quietly, but I will protect us. He nodded like he understood too much for a 7-year-old. That night, my test results came back, negative across the board. Every single test. I forwarded them to Theodore immediately, then printed them and added them to my evidence binder. Tab, medical documentation. Page dated, time-stamped, cross-referenced. A friend from my old life messaged me at midnight. "You need to see this. I'm so sorry." She sent a link to a private Facebook group called Concerned Springfield Parents. The video had been posted there. Danielle had edited footage from my NA meeting to make me look unstable. I watched it with my heart racing. She'd chopped my words from a recovery talk to make it sound like a confession of active drug use. I was using every day, my voice said on screen. Pills controlled my life. I couldn't function without them. But she'd cut out the next part, the crucial part. Past tense. That was my bottom. Now I'm 90 days sober and rebuilding everything. My hands shook with rage. Then I noticed something in the corner of the frame. A window reflection. Someone else filming from a different angle. And that reflection showed the full context, showed me speaking at a podium with an NA banner behind me, showed Danielle herself in the background with her phone out. I paused the video and zoomed in. The quality was poor, but there was definitely another camera angle, which meant there was an original unedited version somewhere. I screenshot the reflection and added it to my binder. Tab, video evidence. Then I thought about who else attended that meeting. Heather, Danielle's closest friend. She'd been there that night, sitting in the back row. I'd seen her crying during the testimonials. Maybe she'd recorded it too. Approaching Heather was risky. She'd been one of Danielle's loyal followers, nodding along to every cruel comment about me. But I'd seen something in her eyes at the last PTA meeting. Discomfort, maybe even guilt. I had to try. I found her at the grocery store on Saturday morning, her cart full of organic produce and expensive wine. "Heather," I said quietly, approaching carefully. She jumped like I'd caught her stealing. Her face went pale. "I need to talk to you about that video from the NA meeting." "I can't," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "Danielle would kill me." Her hands tightened on her shopping cart. But she didn't walk away. That was something. I kept my voice steady and calm. "If your child were in danger, would you want the truth or the drama?" The question hung between us. Heather's eyes filled with tears. She looked at me for a long moment, and I could see her internal battle playing out on her face. "Meet me tonight," she finally whispered. "Behind the library, 9 o'clock. Come alone." She walked away quickly, abandoning her cart in the middle of the aisle. I stood there, trying not to hope too hard. I spent the rest of the day preparing for every possibility. This could be a trap, or it could be the break I desperately needed. I told Patricia where I was going, sent her Heather's contact information, and asked her to call the police if I didn't check in by 9:30. Heather was already there when I arrived, sitting in her car with the engine running and her hands gripping the steering wheel like she might flee any second. I got in the passenger seat, moving slowly. She handed me a USB drive without a word, her hands trembling. "That's the original," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Everything Danielle recorded that night. The full meeting, unedited. I kept a copy because something felt wrong. The way she was smiling while filming people's pain, it made me sick." She wiped tears from her face. "I thought I was helping protect children from unstable parents, but she's been using people's pain for her foundation fundraisers. Last month, she hosted a $20,000 gala dinner using another mother's custody battle as the promotional story. The mother lost her kids and Danielle profited from it. I held the USB drive like it was made of gold and diamonds. "Thank you," I said quietly, meaning it with every fiber of my being. Heather looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "I have a son too, 8 years old. If someone did this to me, I'd want someone to help. I'm sorry I didn't help sooner." She drove away quickly, leaving me standing in the dark parking lot with evidence that could change everything. I went straight home and uploaded the file with shaking hands. The full video played on my laptop screen, and I watched it 3 times to make sure I wasn't imagining things. My voice was clear and strong. I was addicted to prescription painkillers. I'm 90 days sober now. I'm rebuilding my life one day at a time. Then, in the background, barely audible but definitely there, Danielle's voice. Say it louder about the pills. This will help the court see what you really are. My stomach turned. This wasn't concern for Tyler's safety. This was manufactured evidence, deliberately created to destroy me in court. I made 3 backup copies of the USB drive, added the original to my evidence binder in a sealed plastic bag, and emailed a copy to Theodore with the subject line, "Urgent, original, unedited video." Theodore called me at 7 in the morning. "This is gold. This proves deliberate manipulation of evidence. We can use this." His voice had an edge of excitement. Then reality crashed back. "Mark's attorney just filed a subpoena for your sponsor's notes, your therapy records, and your NA meeting attendance logs." It was designed to humiliate me into giving up. They wanted to drag my recovery through the mud, make me ashamed of the hardest thing I'd ever done. Patricia called me an hour later, furious. "They're trying to subpoena my personal notes about our sessions. This is harassment and intimidation." But her voice was steady underneath the anger. "Let them try. Recovery isn't a crime. Your journey isn't evidence of failure. It's evidence of strength. Every meeting you attended, every therapy session, every drug test you passed, that's all proof that you're fighting for your son." I added the subpoena to my binder. Tab legal harassment. The pattern was becoming crystal clear. Danielle wasn't just attacking me personally. She was trying to make recovery itself look dangerous, unstable, shameful. She was weaponizing the very thing that had saved my life. Then I received notice that the court had assigned a custody evaluator. Dr. Veronica Stanton, 15 years of experience, clean professional record. I should have felt relieved. Instead, something nagged at me. I researched her immediately, scrolling through her professional website and social media. Photos appeared from a charity event 2 months ago. Danielle's foundation. Dr. Stanton standing next to Danielle in a formal gown, smiling widely, holding a champagne glass. The caption, "Thank you to our incredible board member, Dr. Veronica Stanton, for her dedication to protecting families." Board member. I felt sick. The custody evaluator assigned to my case was on Danielle's foundation board. I dug deeper into public records, searching LLC filings and tax documents. The formation papers for Safe Futures Family Foundation listed 3 board members: Danielle Wagner, her husband Preston Wagner, and Dr. Veronica Stanton. They were business partners. The person who was supposed to objectively evaluate my fitness as a mother was financially tied to my accuser. I called Theodore immediately, barely able to breathe. "This is a massive conflict of interest," he said. "We'll file an emergency motion to remove her. But the evaluation appointment is in 2 days. We might not get a ruling in time." I went to the appointment anyway, walking into Dr. Stanton's office with my evidence binder and my phone recording audio in my pocket. Her office was professional and cold, decorated with diplomas and motivational posters about family wellness. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The questions started immediately. Leading, designed to make me defensive. "How often do you think about using drugs? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in your parenting abilities? Do you ever feel like you're not a good mother? Has Tyler expressed fear of you or reluctance to be in your care?" I answered calmly, making mental notes of every inappropriate question. When she asked about my support system, I mentioned my sponsor and my therapy appointments. Dr. Stanton wrote something down with a tight smile. "Interesting that you're still so dependent on others for basic functioning. Most stable parents don't require that level of external support." I left feeling gutted but also strangely energized. I had notes on every biased question, every leading statement, every sign of predetermined conclusions. That night, I dove deeper into the foundation's financial records. Public tax filings told a disturbing story. The foundation raised $340,000 last year through donations and fundraising events. Protecting vulnerable children from unstable environments was their stated mission. But the financial records showed something very different. Payments to personal accounts, $95,000 in consulting fees paid directly to Danielle. Retainers for multiple law firms, $67,000. Travel expenses, $34,000 for advocacy conferences. Less than 30% of donations actually went to family services. The rest disappeared into Danielle's pockets and supporting her lifestyle, I felt sick. This wasn't about protecting children. This was a business model. Danielle was turning other people's pain into profit. Every custody battle she inserted herself into was content for her foundation, proof she was needed, justification for more donations. Every broken family was a line item in her budget. I documented everything, taking screenshots of tax returns and LLC filings. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A news article from 2 years ago in the Springfield Tribune. Local mother loses custody battle, community foundation responds. The article featured another mother, another custody battle, another concerned community member reporting suspected drug use. That mother had lost custody of her daughter. And the very next month, Danielle's foundation had hosted a $23,000 gala fundraiser using her story as promotional material. The invitation described protecting an innocent child from an addict mother's dangerous choices. I started searching for that mother, scrolling through old news articles and social media. Her name was Whitney Kerrigan. I found her Facebook profile, mostly private but with a few public posts, one from 6 months ago. 2 years without my daughter. The system failed us both. I sent her a careful message. My name is Olivia. Danielle Wagner is trying to take my son using the same tactics. I think she did this to you too. I'm so sorry. If you're willing to talk, I'd like to hear your story. I didn't expect a response, but 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Meet me tomorrow. I'll tell you everything. A certified letter arrived the next morning before I could meet Whitney. Emergency hearing granted. The date was set for 1 week from today. Mark's attorney had pushed for immediate temporary custody change, claiming I was an imminent danger to Tyler based on new evidence of instability. Theodore called an emergency meeting. This is extremely aggressive, even for contested custody cases, he said, spreading papers across his conference room table. They're trying to steamroll you before we can properly mount a defense. But we have ammunition now. The conflict of interest with Dr. Stanton. The unedited video evidence. The Foundation's questionable financial records. He looked at me seriously. I need to be honest, emergency hearings are scary. The bar for temporary custody change is lower than final custody decisions. If the judge believes Tyler is in immediate danger, they can remove him from your care right there in the courtroom. You need to be prepared for that possibility. I felt like I was drowning. My savings account was down to $1,122 after legal fees and drug testing. My credit card had $2,340 remaining before I hit my limit. Every dollar I'd saved for Tyler's future was disappearing into this legal war. But then I thought about that judicial clerkship program, about my father's letter, about who I was becoming instead of who I used to be. I'm not giving up, I said firmly. I met Whitney that afternoon at a park 30 miles outside of town, far from anyone who might recognize us. She was thin, her eyes hollow like she hadn't slept properly in years. She destroyed me, Whitney said without preamble, her voice barely above a whisper. She used my recovery against me, got donors, got attention, got her victory. Whitney told me her story. 3 years sober from alcohol, working as a dental hygienist, trying to rebuild her life. Her ex-husband wanted full custody to avoid child support. Danielle had befriended her at a school event, seemed supportive, offered to help her navigate the custody system. Then Danielle testified against her in court, reported concerns to CPS, submitted evidence of drinking that was completely fabricated. Whitney lost custody of her 6-year-old daughter based largely on Danielle's testimony as a concerned community member. Whitney showed me her phone, a saved voicemail from Danielle, dated 2 months after the custody ruling. Hi Whitney, just wanted you to know we're hosting a fundraiser next month about protecting children from addiction. We'd love to feature your story as an example of why our work matters. People like you don't deserve children, but we're grateful we could help save yours. The venom in Danielle's voice was chilling. Whitney sobbed. I thought it was just me. I thought I was crazy, that maybe I deserved it because of my past. I held her hand across the picnic table. It's not just you. And you're not crazy. She's doing the exact same thing to me, right now. We talked for 3 hours. Whitney had documentation too, court transcripts, text messages, financial records showing a $23,000 fundraiser held 1 month after she lost custody. Will you testify? I asked. In my hearing? If we can prove this is a pattern, that she's done this before, we might be able to break her. Whitney looked terrified, but she nodded slowly. If it helps you keep your son, yes, I'll testify. Theodore was ecstatic when I told him. We filed an emergency motion, conflict of interest regarding Dr. Stanton, motion to exclude edited video evidence, request for forensic examination of all submitted materials, request for sanctions against opposing counsel for submitting falsified evidence, and a witness affidavit from Whitney establishing pattern of behavior. Danielle's attorney, Richard Ashford, responded viciously. They filed a counter-motion threatening to sue me for defamation, claiming I was making outrageous and unfounded accusations to distract from my unfitness as a parent. The legal fees were mounting. Theodore estimated I'd spend $12,000 total before this was over. Then something unexpected happened. Mark called me directly, not through lawyers. His voice was different, uncertain. Olivia, we need to talk. In person. Just you and me. I was immediately suspicious. Why? There was a long pause. Because I'm starting to think I've made a terrible mistake. We met in a grocery store parking lot the next evening, neutral territory where neither of us had the advantage. Mark looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. She's been coaching me, he said without preamble. Every conversation, every text, every court filing, it's all been scripted by Danielle. He showed me his phone, text messages from Danielle going back 4 months. Say she's unstable. Push the relapse narrative. Make it urgent, life or death for Tyler. Don't let her see you being reasonable, it undermines the danger angle. Each message was a detailed script telling him exactly what to say and how to act. I thought I was protecting Tyler, Mark said, his voice breaking. She kept saying you were going to relapse, that Tyler was in danger, that I needed to act fast before something terrible happened. I wanted to believe her because it was easier than admitting I've been a terrible father since the divorce. I wanted to be angry. Part of me was furious, but I was too exhausted. We both want what's best for Tyler, I said quietly. Mark nodded, wiping his eyes. I'm going to tell my lawyer I want to drop the emergency petition. I'll testify about Danielle's coaching if it helps your case. He told me something else that made my blood run cold. She tried this with another judge, 5 years ago. Filed ethics complaints, got them removed from family court, then hosted a fundraiser about corruption in the judicial system. That's her pattern. Create scandal. Become the hero. Profit from the chaos. I drove home with my mind spinning. Theodore needed to know about this immediately. But more than that, we needed to find documentation of Danielle's previous complaints against that judge. If we could prove she'd weaponized the ethics system before, it would destroy her credibility. The next morning, the court clerk called Theodore. There'd been a scheduling error in the computer system. The newly assigned judge for my emergency hearing was listed as me. Not my case. My name was in the judge field. Theodore called me immediately. This is bizarre. There's obviously a clerical error, but your name is in the court system as the assigned judge. Did you apply for something? My heart stopped. The judicial clerkship program. I'd been attending night classes for 4 months. I'd submitted my application for a magistrate training position 2 weeks ago. I'm in a judicial training program, I said quietly. I applied for a magistrate clerkship, but I haven't heard anything back yet. Theodore was silent for a moment. Well, apparently you have now. The appointment board must have approved your application, and there was a computer glitch that assigned you to your own case. He laughed, slightly hysterical. This is unprecedented. Obviously you'll recuse yourself immediately. But Olivia, do you understand what this means? You're going to be a judicial officer. Danielle's entire strategy relies on you being weak and powerless. She's about to find out you're neither. The emergency hearing was scheduled for the next morning. I arrived early, wearing a conservative navy suit, my hair pulled back, my evidence binder in a leather portfolio. The courtroom was small and cold. Mark sat with his attorney, but his body language was different now. Closed off from them, not from me. Danielle sat behind Mark's attorney like a guardian angel. She wore white again, projecting innocence and concern. When she saw the updated docket sheet posted outside the courtroom, her face went completely white. My name was listed as the assigned judge. The bailiff caught the error within minutes, calling the assignments office in a panic. This can't be right. The respondent is listed as the presiding judge. People in the courtroom started whispering. Danielle's face cycled through shock, rage, and fear in rapid succession. I stood up, my voice clear and steady. Obviously, there's been a clerical error. I must recuse myself immediately from any judicial role in this case. This is completely inappropriate. The proper judge, Judge Maria Castellano, was called in. The hearing would proceed after a 30-minute delay. But the damage to Danielle's strategy was catastrophic. Her entire plan relied on me being weak, ashamed, helpless. Someone she could manipulate and destroy, but I wasn't that person anymore. I was someone who'd climbed out of addiction into a position of authority, someone the court system had vetted and deemed fit to judge others. Outside the courtroom during the delay, Danielle cornered me in the hallway. Her face was twisted with rage, the mask completely gone. "You think that robe makes you clean?" she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "You think a court appointment erases what you are? You're still just a junkie who got lucky." I leaned close and whispered back, "No, recovery made me clean. The judicial appointment just proves I never stopped fighting to be better. But you wouldn't understand that because you've never had to fight for anything real in your life." She made her final move that afternoon. She filed an ethics complaint against my judicial appointment with the State Bar Association, claiming I'd hidden my addiction history during the application process and was unfit for any position of authority. The complaint was detailed, vicious, and sent to every member of the Judicial Appointments Board. Theodore received a copy. "This is her scorched earth strategy," he said. "If she can't win in court, she'll try to destroy your future career. But here's the thing. You disclosed everything in your application. Your recovery history, your sobriety date, everything. She's about to learn that false ethics complaints carry their own penalties." The ethics committee requested documentation the next day. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I wasn't defending myself emotionally. I was submitting facts. Clean drug tests covering 3 years, law school transcripts with my GPA, training program evaluations, therapy attendance records, letters of recommendation from 3 current judges who supervised my clerkship, evidence of Dr. Stanton's conflict of interest with Danielle's foundation, forensic analysis of the edited video showing deliberate manipulation, witness affidavit from Whitney about the identical pattern of behavior, Mark's testimony about coaching and script messages, the foundation's financial records showing $95,000 in personal consulting fees to Danielle. Danielle had expected fear and shame. She got paperwork, mountains of it, all organized, dated, indexed, and cross-referenced. The ethics committee didn't just review my application. They opened a broader investigation into Danielle's foundation. Donors were contacted, financial records were subpoenaed, tax returns were examined. Other mothers who'd been through custody battles involving Danielle were found and interviewed. A reporter from the Springfield Tribune, Marcus Chen, got wind of the story. He called Theodore requesting comment. "I'm investigating allegations that a local charity has been exploiting custody battles for fundraising purposes. I'd like to speak with your client." Theodore and I met with Marcus in his office. I brought my entire evidence binder. Marcus spent 3 hours going through documentation, taking notes, recording our conversation with permission. His face grew darker as he read. "This is Pulitzer-level investigative journalism," Marcus said quietly. "A charity that profits from destroying families. I need to verify everything independently, but if this is all true, this is massive." He requested copies of public records, which Theodore provided, tax returns, LLC filings, court transcripts. The article ran on the front page 3 days before the final custody hearing. "Foundation under investigation for fraud, local charity accused of exploiting custody battles for profit." The article detailed everything. Danielle's $95,000 salary, the $23,000 fundraiser using Whitney's story, the pattern of targeting recovering mothers, Dr. Stanton's board position. Donors pulled funding within hours. The Springfield Women's Club rescinded Danielle's Community Hero Award. Corporate sponsors issued statements distancing themselves. The foundation's Facebook page was flooded with angry comments. Heather posted a public apology online and released the full unedited video, writing, "I was complicit in hurting people. I'm sorry, here's the truth. The post went viral locally, 5,000 shares in 24 hours. Other mothers came forward in the comments. She did this to me too. I lost custody because of her testimony. She used my daughter's story in a fundraiser without permission. 7 mothers total, all following the same pattern. Danielle tried to spin it as persecution, as jealousy, as lies from bitter women who'd lost custody for legitimate reasons. She posted a long Facebook statement. I'm being targeted by people who refuse to take responsibility for their choices. I've only ever tried to protect children. This is a coordinated attack to silence advocates. But the comments section wasn't kind. You profited $95K from advocacy. Why was the evaluator your business partner? You edited evidence. That's fraud. My sister lost her kids because of you. The court of public opinion had turned. The night before the final custody hearing, someone knocked on my door at 9 p.m. I looked through the peephole, shocked to see Preston Wagner, Danielle's husband. He looked broken, exhausted, 20 years older than his age. I can't do this anymore, he said when I opened the door. He was holding a thick folder. She's destroyed everything. Our marriage, our reputation, our finances. I'm filing for divorce next week. You need to see this. Inside the folder were internal emails, donor presentation decks, fundraising strategy documents, scripts for concerned community members to use when reporting suspected abuse, profit and loss statements, target demographic profiles. One email subject line made me physically sick. Target profile, recovering mother, high sympathy factor, high control potential, excellent story arc for fundraising. I was a line item in a business plan, a demographic to exploit. So were Whitney and the 7 other mothers. We were products, our pain converted into profit, our children's trauma turned into donation opportunities. Why are you giving me this? I asked, my voice shaking. Preston looked hollow. Because my son asked me last night if his mommy was a good person. He's 8 years old, and I couldn't answer him. I looked at my boy, and I realized he was growing up watching his mother destroy people for money. What kind of man does that make me for allowing it? He wiped tears from his face. I met Danielle in college. She was passionate about child welfare, about protecting vulnerable people. I don't know when it became about money and power, but I can't be part of it anymore. Those emails will prove everything you need. Theodore nearly cried when I showed him the folder at 6 a.m. the next morning. This is prosecution-level evidence. This proves systematic fraud, conspiracy, and abuse of the legal system. The district attorney is going to want this. The final custody hearing was packed. Every seat filled. The original emergency petition had been dropped by Mark, but the court had ordered a full custody evaluation and hearing anyway, given the serious allegations on both sides. Judge Castellano presided, her expression stern and unreadable. Danielle testified first. She was polished, rehearsed, perfect. She spoke about community responsibility, protecting vulnerable children, the dangers of untreated addiction and mental illness. I've dedicated my life to keeping children safe, she said, looking directly at Judge Castellano. Sometimes that means making hard choices and speaking difficult truths. Theodore began cross-examination. Miss Wagner, you run a foundation called Safe Futures. Family Foundation, correct? Danielle nodded proudly, smiling. Yes, we've protected dozens of families and raised over $400,000 in 3 years. Theodore pulled out financial records. These tax returns show you paid yourself $95,000 in consulting fees last year. What consulting did you personally provide? Danielle stumbled. Administrative costs, fundraising strategy, program development. Theodore showed the donor presentations on the courtroom screen. These presentations use specific custody cases, real families, real children, cases where you personally testified against mothers who were in recovery programs. He clicked through slides. Whitney's daughter's photo, another woman's son. A third case, all used in fundraising materials without permission. All cases where Danielle had testified as a concerned community member. All cases where the mothers had lost custody. Miss Wagner, did you profit financially from these cases? Theodore asked. Danielle's face went red. I didn't profit. I advocated for children. Theodore presented the email from Preston. Target profiles, revenue projections, fundraising timelines coordinated with custody hearings. This email from your foundation account describes recovering mothers as high sympathy factor, High control potential? Excellent story arc for fundraising. You targeted vulnerable women for profit. The courtroom went completely silent. Then the forensic expert testified. Dr. Raymond Liu, a digital forensic specialist. He explained metadata, file modification dates, and video editing techniques. He showed definitively that Danielle's video had been edited 3 days before submission, with 17 cuts made to change the context of my statements. The original file was 4 minutes and 12 seconds, Dr. Liu testified. The submitted version was 1 minute and 38 seconds. Critical contextual information was deliberately removed to change the meaning of Mrs. Brennan's statements from past tense confession to present tense admission. Then Dr. Stanton's conflict of interest was exposed. Theodore presented LLC formation documents showing her as a board member of Danielle's foundation, receiving $12,000 annually for consulting services. Judge Castellano's expression darkened. Whitney testified next. She cried through most of it, explaining how Danielle had befriended her, gained her trust, then systematically destroyed her in court. She used my recovery against me. She took my words about getting sober and twisted them to make me sound dangerous. I lost custody of my daughter for 3 years because of her testimony. Whitney showed the voicemail. People like you don't deserve children. Danielle's voice, dripping with venom, played through the courtroom speakers. Several people in the gallery gasped. Judge Castellano leaned forward, listening intently. Mark testified. He admitted being coached, manipulated, given scripts for every interaction. I wanted to believe my ex-wife was the problem, he said quietly, looking at me with genuine regret. It was easier than admitting I'd been a terrible husband and father. Danielle told me exactly what to say, how to say it, when to file motions. She even offered to pay my legal fees through foundation donations. He submitted text messages, hundreds of them. Scripts, strategies, manipulation tactics. She said if I followed her plan, I'd definitely win custody. She promised. But I wasn't protecting my son. I was helping her build a case for her next fundraiser. Preston testified last. He was devastating. He explained the foundation's business model in detail, how Danielle identified vulnerable mothers, usually in recovery or with mental health histories, how she befriended them, gained access to their private struggles, then weaponized that information in custody battles. She calculated that each successful case where a mother lost custody would generate between $15,000 and $30,000 in fundraising revenue, Preston said, his voice empty. She had spreadsheets, projections, target goals. She turned human suffering into quarterly earnings. He submitted the email folder. Judge Castellano read through them in silence. Her face was granite. Miss Wagner, Judge Castellano said, her voice cold and precise, the court is deeply concerned not only with your credibility as a witness, but with your fitness to participate in any capacity in family court proceedings. The evidence suggests a systematic pattern of fraud, manipulation of evidence, and financial exploitation of vulnerable families. She turned to Theodore. I'm ruling from the bench. Primary custody remains with Mrs. Brennan. Mr. Brennan will have structured visitation with reunification therapy to rebuild trust with his son. The custody evaluation conducted by Dr. Stanton is invalidated due to conflict of interest. A new evaluation will be ordered with a state-appointed evaluator. Judge Castellano looked at Danielle. Miss Wagner, I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of fraud, false reporting, perjury, and potential conspiracy charges. I'm also referring your conduct to the State Bar Association, as your interference in legal proceedings may constitute unauthorized practice of law. The gavel fell. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Danielle sat frozen, her face white. Preston stood and walked out without looking at her. Mark came over to me, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, Olivia, for all of it. Outside the courthouse, Tyler ran to me. Mark had brought him to hear the decision. I caught my son holding him tight, breathing in the scent of his hair. Mom, are we safe now? He asked, his small voice muffled against my shoulder. I knelt down so I was eye level with him. We always were, baby. We just had to prove it. Tyler hugged me tighter. You're the bravest person I know, he whispered. Mark stood nearby, awkward but sincere. Can we try again? He asked quietly. Co-parenting, I mean. Doing it right this time, being honest. Being a real father. I looked at him, at this man I'd once loved who'd tried to take our son from me. For Tyler we can try, I said. But you broke something, Mark. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. He nodded. I know. I'll spend as long as it takes proving I've changed. I'll go to therapy. I'll be consistent. I'll show up. The ethics committee cleared my judicial appointment within 10 days. My addiction history wasn't a disqualification. The committee chair wrote in her decision, Miss Brennan's recovery journey demonstrates extraordinary character, resilience, and commitment to personal growth. Her disclosure was thorough and honest. Her sobriety is well documented. Her understanding of addiction and family systems will serve the court well. She continued, the false ethics complaint filed against Miss Brennan appears to be retaliatory and malicious. We are referring that complaint to the district attorney as potential witness intimidation. I received my formal judicial assignment 6 weeks later. Family court magistrate. I'd be hearing preliminary custody cases, evaluating what was truly best for children, protecting families from the kind of evil that had almost destroyed mine. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Danielle's foundation was dissolved by the state attorney general. She faced criminal charges. 3 counts of fraud, 5 counts of false reporting, 2 counts of perjury, 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud. The trial was set for 4 months later. 5 custody cases were reopened for review based on Danielle's tainted testimony. Whitney got her daughter back after 3 years of separation. Another mother regained custody of her son. Others were still fighting, but now they had hope and documentation proving the cases against them had been manufactured. My first day on the bench was surreal. I wore the black robe, sat in the elevated chair, looked out at the courtroom where desperate parents fought over their children. I understood their pain intimately. I'd lived it. I'd survived it. My first case involved a father fighting for custody. His ex-wife claimed he was unstable, dangerous, unable to parent effectively. The evidence felt eerily familiar. Edited videos taken out of context, coached testimony from concerned friends, manufactured timeline of concerning behaviors. I ordered a full forensic review of all digital evidence. I asked pointed questions about who had prepared the testimony. I required original documentation for every claim. The case took 4 weeks, but the truth emerged systematically. The mother was lying. She'd learned tactics from online forums about how to win custody by destroying credibility. I ruled in the father's favor. As he left the courtroom crying with relief, thanking me through tears, I understood why I'd survived everything I had. This was my purpose. Protecting families from manipulation, using my experience with addiction, recovery, and false accusations to see through lies that other judges might miss. Tyler started therapy with Dr. Alan Rodriguez, a specialist in childhood trauma. Tyler was angry, confused, traumatized by everything he'd witnessed. But he was also resilient. Kids are tougher than we think, Dr. Rodriguez told me. Tyler knows his mom fought for him. That matters more than the pain. Tyler drew pictures in therapy. One showed me wearing a superhero cape, holding a shield. My mom fights monsters, he told Dr. Rodriguez. She's tired, but she keeps fighting. When the therapist showed me the drawing, I cried for 20 minutes in my car. Mark followed through on his promises. He attended therapy. He showed up for every scheduled visitation. He called Tyler just to say goodnight. Slowly, carefully, he was rebuilding trust. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. 6 months after the hearing, Danielle was convicted. The trial lasted 3 weeks. 12 jurors heard testimony from 8 mothers, financial experts, digital forensic specialists, and Preston, who divorced her and was seeking full custody of their son. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on 3 counts of fraud, guilty on 5 counts of false reporting, guilty on 2 counts of perjury. Not guilty on conspiracy, which disappointed prosecutors but didn't surprise Theodore. Conspiracy is always the hardest to prove, he said. Sentencing came 2 months later. Judge Castellano presided. She allowed victim impact statements. Whitney spoke first, describing 3 years without her daughter, the stigma, the shame, the financial devastation of legal fees. She took everything from me for profit, Whitney said. She turned my recovery into her business plan. I spoke last. Danielle Wagner didn't just attack me. She attacked the concept of recovery itself. She tried to make getting sober into evidence of permanent unfitness. She wanted to prove that people like me can never change, never heal, never deserve redemption. If she'd succeeded, it wouldn't have just destroyed me. It would have destroyed hope for every person fighting addiction. Judge Castellano sentenced Danielle to 4 years in state prison and ordered her to pay $127,000 in restitution to the 8 families whose cases had been overturned. You exploited the most vulnerable people in our community for personal profit, Judge Castellano said. You corrupted legal proceedings, you perjured yourself repeatedly, you weaponized child welfare systems against innocent families. This court has no sympathy for you. The families Danielle had destroyed began rebuilding. Whitney and I stayed close friends. She was back in her NA program, working through her trauma, rebuilding her relationship with her daughter Mia, now 9 years old. You saved my life, Whitney told me once over coffee. I shook my head. You saved your own life by staying sober and telling the truth. I just helped shine a light on what she was doing to us. My judicial career grew steadily. I became known among family court attorneys as the judge who understood addiction and recovery, who could see through manufactured evidence, who protected families from manipulation. Other judges consulted me on difficult cases involving substance abuse allegations. I never forgot where I came from. Every NA meeting I attended, every sponsor I worked with, every person I helped, it was all part of the same journey. Recovery wasn't a destination. It was a daily practice, a constant choice to be honest, to be present, to keep fighting. Tyler thrived. He made new friends at school, joined soccer, brought home straight A's. The other mothers who'd shunned me started reaching out, apologizing, asking how they could have been so wrong. Some I forgave, others I kept at distance. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. Mark became a decent co-parent. We'd never be friends, but we were functional partners in raising Tyler. He remarried 2 years later, a kind woman named Rachel who treated Tyler with genuine affection. I was grateful for that. My own romantic life remained complicated. Dating as a recovering addict with a demanding judicial career wasn't easy, but I wasn't lonely. I had Tyler, my work, my NA community, my purpose. That was enough. 3 years after the custody battle, I was invited to speak at a statewide recovery conference. The topic was overcoming stigma in professional life. 200 people filled the auditorium. I told my story, every painful detail. The addiction, the recovery, Danielle's attack, the custody battle, the judicial appointment. During the Q&A session, a young woman raised her hand. How did you survive someone weaponizing your recovery against you? She asked, her voice shaking. I'm 2 years sober, and my ex just filed for custody. He's using my past against me. I'm terrified. I looked at her, remembering myself 3 years ago, shaking in Theodore's office, watching my savings disappear, wondering if I'd lose Tyler forever. Document everything, I said. Every sober day, every therapy session, every way you show up for your child. Recovery isn't weakness. It's proof you can face your worst demons and win. Don't let anyone make you ashamed of the hardest thing you've ever done. The applause was deafening, but I barely heard it. I was thinking about Tyler, now 10 years old, thriving in 5th grade, proud of his mom, the judge. About Mark, finally learning to be the father he should have been from the start. About Whitney and the 7 other mothers, rebuilding their lives one day at a time. And about Danielle, serving year 3 of her prison sentence, her foundation dissolved, her reputation destroyed, her business model exposed. She'd called me a junkie mom. She'd tried to use my past to destroy my future. She'd assumed my recovery made me weak, vulnerable, easy prey. She made one critical mistake. She assumed shame would break me, but shame can't survive in the light of truth. And the truth is simple. I was sick. I got better. I kept fighting. And I won. More than that, I transformed. The woman who'd been attacked in a playground parking lot wasn't the same woman wearing judicial robes. Danielle's cruelty had been designed to destroy me. Instead, it had forced me to become stronger, smarter, more determined than I'd ever imagined possible. I held up my 6-year sobriety chip during the speech, letting the light catch on the metal. She thought this was evidence of my weakness. It's actually proof of my strength. Every day sober is a victory. Every meeting attended is courage in action. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you're building something unbreakable. The young woman who'd asked the question was crying. After the speech, she approached me with a folder. Will you look at my case? She asked. My lawyer doesn't understand addiction. He keeps telling me to just accept supervised visitation. I reviewed her documents right there in the conference hallway. The case was familiar. Edited evidence, coached testimony, manufactured concerns. You need a different lawyer, I told her. And you need to document everything like your life depends on it, because right now it does. I gave her Theodore's contact information and my personal cell number. Call me if you need help understanding the process. You're not alone in this. She hugged me, sobbing. Thank you. I thought I was the only one. You're not, I said. And that's exactly what people like Danielle count on. They want us isolated, ashamed, convinced we deserve punishment forever. But recovery is redemption. Never forget that. Walking to my car that night, I thought about the letter I'd received last week. From Preston and his son, now 11. Preston had rebuilt his life too, remarried, started a legitimate nonprofit, helping families navigate custody disputes ethically. His son was in therapy, healing from the trauma of watching his mother's corruption exposed. The letter said simply, "Thank you for having the courage to fight back. You didn't just save your family. You saved mine too." I thought about all the families saved by exposing Danielle's fraud. All the mothers who'd regained custody. All the children reunited with parents who loved them. All the future victims who'd never face her manipulation because she was in prison. And I thought about that moment in the courtroom when Judge Castellano had ruled in my favor, when I'd held Tyler and known we were finally safe. When justice had been served, not through revenge, but through truth. Danielle Wagner had called me a junkie mom in a playground parking lot, thinking that label would destroy me. Instead, it became the catalyst for my transformation. She tried to weaponize my past. I used it as fuel to build a future she never saw coming. The woman who'd been attacked went home that day and started building her case. The woman who'd been underestimated quietly organized evidence. The woman who'd been dismissed as weak proved that recovery creates a kind of strength that privileged bullies can never understand. She thought shame would break me. She learned that courts never forgive one thing above all else: a liar with receipts against her. And I had receipts for everything. Tyler was waiting up when I got home, even though it was past his bedtime. "How was your speech, Mom?" he asked, hugging me at the door. "Did you tell them about fighting monsters?" I smiled, running my fingers through his hair. I told them about fighting one monster and winning, about how sometimes the people who try to hurt us end up making us stronger instead. He nodded seriously. "Like in video games, the boss battle makes you level up." I laughed. "Exactly like that, buddy, exactly like that."